All right. Give me 1 second more that I put the list of participants. Okay, so I can see 8 different people, and I already confirmed that you can listen to me properly. Okay, that's good. All right, so we are going to be using one of the presentations that we used last December for UNOE, but we'll see that the transportation management process, and in particular the part that we will be targeting today, I mean in this session, that is for the freight procurement team and for the aviation team, it's going to be very similar, no matter if we are talking about UNOE or either troops. Okay, and then we can also open the presentation for troops. Okay, that is going to be very similar. Okay, so let me go to the end-to-end process so that I can explain to you a little bit. I can provide you with an overview of the end-to-end process. Okay, so there are different phases. So this end-to-end process is can be read from left to right. Okay, so there are different phases. Like we start with the procurement. In the case of the UNOE, if we are talking about troops or COE, instead of a shopping cart in SRM, there is a different way for planners to put their requirements into TM. But for vehicles, for UNOE, vehicles are requested through a shopping cart and a PO, and then there is an integration with TM. And then specifically for the transportation management, we have a new phase that is called the plan transportation, in which planners will be able to create the different legs of the transportation network. Okay, and in particularly talking about the freight procurement. So in the case that the UN is responsible for the transportation, for example, if we are talking about troops or COE, in the case of non-LOA scenario, the UN will be contacting the freight forwarders so that they can arrange the transportation, but the planners will need to create what is called in TM the freight orders. Okay, so freight orders are the objects in TM that will identify the different legs in the transportation network. Okay, so we will be having a look later on in the system to see how that is represented in the system. So by doing the plan transportation, the planners will create the freight orders in TM that will be used later on to generate the statement of work document that at the moment is currently created manually. Okay, and that statement of work document will be used in the procurement phase. Okay, so the audience for this session, it's mainly performing the roles applicable for this particular phase, the procure freight phase, and this procure freight phase, the input is the statement of work document that is generated as part of plan transportation. So this statement of work that can be generated from the freight order document will be used as an input to start the freight requisition process. So the freight requisitioning, and the solicitation is done in a similar way as it's done at the moment. So the process in SRM, that is the process of creating the shopping cart for freight, approving the shopping cart, the RFX, the solicitation, and then the part of, once we have completed the solicitation, the part of creating the freight PO and approving the freight PO, that works in a similar way. The only thing is that the statement of work, it's coming automatically from TM, but solicitation and the freight PO, it's done still in SRM. But once we have the awarded carrier, the freight procurement team, what is called the freight order manager role in the system, will need to connect to the new module, connect to the transportation management module, okay, to do basically to assign the awarded carrier, to assign the carrier, and link the different freight orders to the freight PO. So as part of the SRM process, we have the freight PO, okay, but we still need to link the freight orders in TM to the related freight PO. Okay, so that this step is a new one. So after we have the awarded freight PO, the freight order manager role that is going to be granted to the freight procurement team in HQ will need to connect to TM and assign the carrier and indicate the freight PO. Okay, so that's a new step in the system. That's new. And in the case the freight forwarder will transport the items or will transport the troops through a different route, we will still need to change the route, the dates into TM. Okay, and the same thing for the charges. Okay, so basically, as a freight procurement team, your new actions will be in the procure freight steps. And once we have the carrier assigned as freight forwarder, then the freight forwarder can connect to the carrier collaboration portal and submit events directly in the carrier collaboration portal in CCP. Okay, I can see people that attended the sessions in that we delivered in December there in HQ, but I think we also have here people that are brand new into the system. So okay, so we will try to connect into the system just to show to you what we just briefly explained, but I think it's going to be much easier when we do it in the system. Okay, so this thing that we are talking about for UNOE applies very similarly to troops and to TM. So we can have the transportation managed by UN and then delegated to a freight forwarder, or we can have the manufacturer or the troops contributing country doing the transportation, and in that case we don't have any freight forwarder. Okay, so give me just 1-2 minutes to connect into TM, and while I connect, feel free to raise your hand in case you want to participate. Okay, 1 second. All right. Okay, give me a second. All right. Okay. Can you see my screen? I just changed from the presentation to the system. Thank you, Maxime. So let me connect as a planner. Okay. I'm using the training environment, but the system will go live next Monday. Okay, so you will be able to access TM using the Umoja production dashboard, and the TM will be one of the links available. Okay. So what I'm gonna do, I will focus on the steps you will perform as a freight forwarder. So I'm gonna just open the transportation cockpit to, let's say, to create some freight orders and to explain to you the different documents so that you understand. So now I'm playing more the role that MoveCon will play in order to plan the transportation. So in this case, I'm using the example of UNOE FCA, in which the UN is responsible for one of the stages in order to bring the vehicles from the handover location up to the mission. Okay, just for you to understand. So you will not be performing these actions to plan the transportation, but I will be showing to you later on how you will use the statement of work and how you can assign the carrier and assign the freight PO. So let me select one of the freight units, one of the transportation requirements. I'm still playing the role of the transportation manager, more MoveCon or STS, that will create the freight orders. And what I'm trying to do now is to plan the part of the transportation in which the UN is responsible for. Okay, so the system will propose different alternatives. Okay, and let me select. So in this example, it's a transportation from Yokohama port to Juba. So it's a UNOE transportation from Yokohama to AMIS, to Juba. Okay. All right. So let me sort it by the cost. And in this case, it's FCA, and we have a part of the transportation that is done directly by the manufacturer, in this case Nissan, and the handover location in this case it's Durban port. So Nissan will be transporting this item from Yokohama to Durban, and then from Durban to AMIS, from the handover location up to the final destination, is the responsibility of the UN. Okay, so let me select the first proposal, and that will be to transport from Durban to Mombasa using vessel, and then from Mombasa to Juba using truck. And I will accept this proposal. Okay, I can see some green check marks, so you can make use of the hand in case you want to speak up. Okay. All right. So I just accepted that transportation. Okay, so Maxime, I think you want to speak up. Let me unmute you. Okay, so now your mic is unmuted, so you can speak. All right. Okay, I can see that you don't have a microphone. Okay, but okay, so you're asking about the where do you see the Incoterms, right? So where do you see that? Yeah, I went a little bit fast into that part, but let me show to you where can you see this that it's FCA or Xworks. Okay, so at this stage we open the transportation cockpit and we request the transportation cockpit to show all the requirements that are neither DAP nor Xworks. Okay, so it will show to the planner all the freight units that are neither DAP nor Xworks. So if I open any of those freight units that are kind of the different requirements for transportation, if I open any of them, I will be able to see in the, so this is one of the freight units. in here, I'll be able to see in the general data the Incoterm. Okay, so we can see that the Incoterm is FCA, free carrier, and that the Incoterm location is Durban port. Okay, and if we see the stages tab of the freight unit, okay, in the stages tab we can see the different stages. So stage 1, 2, 3, that is delivered by the in this case Nissan. It's vendor delivered. We can already see the different transportation modes, and then the part of the where the UN is responsible for, from Durban to AMIS, that is this SPSSA6, that is Juba, that is still unplanned. Okay, and that's what we were doing in the transportation cockpit. So we were planning the transportation from Durban to AMIS, and we said we wanted to do it from by using Mombasa port as a stopover point. So we just created this proposal, and if we save it, I'm just going to click on save to accept that proposal. Okay, let me save it. Okay, and now, okay, so now I just accepted the proposal for that freight unit. So what I did as a planner was to create the freight orders for that particular transportation. So let me open one of these freight orders. Okay, so that's the freight order. That is, it's the leg corresponding from Durban to Mombasa. Okay, we can see the different items. Okay, the different items that are included in the in that particular leg. We can see in the document flow the related documents. So we can see, for example, what we discussed about the freight units. So at which stage we are right now. So if we go back to the presentation, what I just did, I used the transportation cockpit and I created the freight units. Sorry, the freight orders. I created the freight orders by selecting the best proposal. So I selected the proposal having Mombasa port as stopover as the best proposal, and as I accepted the proposal, the system created the freight orders. So which are these freight orders? In here I'm showing only the first freight order. If I open the freight unit, I'll be able to see the two freight orders, because the first leg, it's from Durban to Mombasa, it's done via vessel. So if I open the stages tab, I'll be able to see the two freight orders I have just created. So the two freight orders I have created are this one and this one. So I just planned the transportation from Durban to Mombasa using a vessel. So we can see here transportation mode, it's C. And the last leg from Mombasa port to Juba, that will be done using a truck. Okay. And I think if we go to the right, we will be able to see the difference. So in this case that we are talking about UNOE and if FCA, we have three legs that are vendor delivered, meaning that it will be, in this case, Nissan responsible for the transportation. So the first three legs are responsibility of Nissan. So that's Nissan. Okay, Nissan. these first three will be Nissan responsible, and the last two are the ones I have created and are managed by UN. The ones I have created the freight orders by doing planning in the transportation cockpit. So we have two different phases in the case of UNOE FCA. In the case of troops or COE, we will either have the TCC delivering the equipment or the troops, or the UN. Okay, so in the case of a LOA scenario, it will be TCC, right, delivering the troops or the equipment, and in the case of a non-LOA scenario, it will be UN, right, doing the transportation. So the same thing applies to COE or troops. In the case of UNOE FCA, in the same shipment, we can have different phases, but for COE and troops, we either have TCC responsible or the UN. Okay, and as you can see here, that's also important. What you can see noted as carrier. So what you can see here as carrier, for the first three legs, you can see that the carrier is automatically assigned to the VP of Nissan. So that's the business partner of Nissan. Okay, and the two legs that are responsibility of UN, the carrier is still defaulted to dummy, because at this stage we don't know yet who is going to be the freight forwarder. So the system is defaulting that carrier to dummy, so that afterwards, when we have assigned or awarded the freight forwarder, we can go back to the freight orders and update the BP of the awarded freight forwarder. Okay. All right. What else? In here we can see the different numbers. So we can see at the right the numbers of the freight orders. So we can see here freight order for the first leg and freight order for the second leg. And if we click on any of them, on the numbers, the system will open the related freight order. Okay, so we can see that the system has automatically opened the freight order, and in the stages we will see that when we talk about freight orders, we'll only see one leg, in this case from Durban to Mombasa. Okay, so we have, going back to our scenario, we have created our freight orders, and we are ready to generate the statement of work that will serve as an input to the freight procurement. So how can we do that? So directly in the freight order document, the planner will go to the output management tab. So to the output management, and you can see that we have an option available to click on the statement of work form, and we can even preview the document, preview the statement of work. The system, based on the planning we have done, the system is able to generate this statement of work. Okay, and in here you can see, so this, I mean, I'm still using training environment, so there might be some changes, some slight changes to the final template that will be used in production, but this statement of work will have all the different requirements. If we are talking about UNOE, we it will include the goods PO, the inbound delivery. If we are talking about COE or troops, it will include, for example, the MOU reference and so on. Okay, so that's the statement of work for a UNOE with an FCA Incoterm. Okay, so from here, the planner can download, okay, can save this PDF, and the idea is that if there is a need to change any of those details manually, the PDF can be edited using a PDF editor software, okay, and can be uploaded later on for reference, okay. But the first version of it, with all the details about the different freight orders, the source, destination, the different items, and the related documents. So here we have the origin, that is the Incoterm location, the destination, and the different items with the dimensions, weight, and so on. It's defaulted by the system, but manual additions can be done using the PDF editor. Okay. So this PDF will be used. Let's go back to our end-to-end scenario. So the statement of work, this PDF it will be used as an input for this process, shopping cart, for the freight, solicitation, and the up until the freight PO. This process from the shopping cart for freight up until the PO for freight is approved remains the same, so no changes in SRM in that regard. The only change we could say would be for UNOE that from now on the freight PO or the freight requirement will be raised in a separate shopping cart. So as of today, if you're raising a shopping cart for, let's say, for vehicles, and it's with FCA Incoterm, the requisitioner was including the goods together with the freight services. But with the implementation of this TM module, goods shopping cart will be a different one than the shopping cart for freight. Okay, so they will be raised in different shopping carts. So let's say that you have been through the solicitation process. You have already created your freight PO and it has been approved. So at this stage, you already have a freight forwarder that has been awarded, right? So we already have the business partner of the freight forwarder that has been awarded with the freight services. And the additional steps for the procurement, so for the freight order manager role, will be to go into TM and update the freight forwarder and indicate the freight PO into TM. Okay. Any question so far? I can see more people join the session. Okay. So let me go back to the system. Let me close, let's say this one. Okay. Okay. Well, let me try to open it. This was the statement of work. So let's say that this is the statement of work that we generated, and we went through the solicitation process. We have already awarded our PO, so that will be the freight orders. So I will have to go as a freight order manager, okay, and instead of using the transportation cockpit, so now I will be playing the role of the freight order manager that will be granted to a procurement division, so that you can update once you have the awarded freight forwarder. You can update that information in TM. So instead of using the planning, you will be using the freight order management tab, and you'll go to overview freight orders, okay? Because you want to, as we said, we want to assign the carrier and assign the freight PO to those freight orders, okay? What we want to do, let's say that this statement of work was awarded, let's say, to Kuehn and Nagel. So what we want to do, we want to indicate that the carrier for this freight order that currently it's showing as dummy. If we go to business partner, we can see that the carrier for those freight orders is still showing as dummy. So we want to change that to reflect that instead of dummy, this one should be Kuehn and Nagel. So we can do it one by one for each freight orders, but we can also do it in bulk, saying that we can do it for several freight orders. So in this case, the statement of work related to two different freight orders, not only to the one ending with 326, but also to the one ending with 327. So we need to assign the carrier to this freight order and also to this freight order. So how can we do that? We can use the report, these overview freight orders, and we can indicate, if we know the freight order numbers, we can indicate them here in the freight orders, okay? Otherwise, we can also make use of the change query here to have additional fields for filtering. Okay, so for example, if we know the if we go to the bottom and we know, for example, the inbound delivery. So if, for example, if we know the inbound delivery in ECC, or we know the goods PO, we can use that filtering in order to filter out. For COE and troops, we can make use of the MOU reference, or we can use the forwarding order that is kind of inbound delivery for UNOE. Okay, so we can use those additional filtering criteria to search for our freight orders. In our case, what do we have? So in here we have the PO, right? That's the goods PO, and we also have the inbound delivery. So we can, let me copy that goods PO and filter by that. Okay, and I will use the apply button. Okay, and the system will show to me different ones. Okay, because maybe that purchase order had different freight orders, so I can see not only two, but I can see more. Let me use, instead of the PO, let me use the inbound delivery. That will reduce the number of freight orders. Okay, so let me remove this one and use the inbound delivery. Sorry. Okay, the inbound delivery. And in this case, I will have less, but still, I think I will have more than two. Okay, but why do I have more than two? Because we already explained, or we already mentioned this before. You can see that we have two that are with type ZFO1 and three that are type ZFO3. Okay, because in this case we're talking about UNOE FCA. So these three refer to the legs provided by Nissan. Okay, and the other two, oh sorry, and the other ones are the ones that we want to assign to the freight forward. Okay, so these are the ones that have to do with the freight forwarder, and these are the ones we want to assign. So these are the ones that we want to assign to Kuehne and Nagel. So these two, 326 and 327, if we have a look to our statement of work, 326 and 327 are the ones that we want to assign to Kuehne and Nagel. So we will be selecting these two by selecting both of them, and we can use the subcontracting option, and we can click on the assign carrier and SRM freight PO. So as a freight procurement division, I can with that role, I can click on that option, and the system will allow me to indicate the carrier and indicate the related freight PO. All right. In here, I can use the matchbox to search for existing freight forwarders. So I can use, for example, the search term. Let me try to look for Kuehne and Nagel. Okay, I can use the search button, and the system will retrieve all of them that with a similar name. So let me select the first one, and that's the business partner of the freight forwarder. And in here, I don't have, it's a free text, I don't have the option to look for existing freight POs. I should be indicating here the freight PO raised in SRM for the freight. So the 22, okay, the 22 number. That one, it's a free text. Okay, make sure you indicate, you copy properly from SRM. So that will be the freight PO used in SRM. Okay, remember, what we are doing now, it's populating in TM whatever it was approved and raised in SRM. Okay, what we are doing we are inputting that information into TM. Okay, so I have I have indicated the freight forwarder BP and the related freight PO. I'll click on OK, and automatically the system will have updated the business partner. So if I go back to our freight order, that's the freight order we have just updated. That's our statement of work document. If we go back to our business partner that was still showing, so that's what we have just changed. Okay, that's the dummy carrier that is still showing there. If we click on refresh, it will change from dummy to Kuehne and Nagel. So now you can see that business partner has changed from dummy to Kuehne and Nagel because we have assigned it. We have done it for several freight orders. If you want to do it for only one freight order, you can just do it here. Okay, you can just click on edit and change it here. But if you want to do it for several freight orders, you can use the option we just showed before to do it for several freight orders at a time. Okay. All right, we have a question in the chat, Rodian, about the payment. Okay, if TM is somehow triggering payment to the supplier once the items are handed over. Okay, so okay, remember that all this the integration with payments, it remains as it currently is. Remember that, for example, for FCA, we still have in ECC, for example, the virtual good receipt. Okay, so payment to vendors, payment to manufacturers with an FCA Incoterm is triggered when virtual good receipt is performed. Okay, same thing for freight forwarders. Okay, so for freight forwarders, once the service entry sheet for services is provided, the payment for freight forwarders will be triggered. So TM, the transportation, is not triggering payment. Its only purpose is to manage the transportation from beginning to end, and it will be a little bit clearer once we show the carrier collaboration portal in which freight forwarders and manufacturers can submit events and attachments. But payment, it's triggered as it currently is directly in ECC with the virtual receipts and the service entry sheets. Okay, once the service is provided. All right. Okay, so I have just updated the freight forwarder, and the other data that I updated was the freight PO, and that's also visible from the in the freight order, and it's visible in the document references tab. So in the document reference, so one tab should be document references that I cannot see it. So you can see that you have different tabs available, okay, in the freight order. And besides that one, besides those tabs, more are also available in here in the personalization dialog box. It's not very user friendly, but if you open the personalization box, it will show to you the different tabs visible, but we can still add some hidden tabs. Okay, so in here you can see the hidden tabs, and one of the hidden tabs is the one I'm looking for, is the document references tab, that I can just click on OK. It will appear at the bottom, and I'm just trying to put it together. So I want to remove these two so that all of them appear together. So I'm going to click on Move Up so that all of them appear together in the same list of tabs. I'm clicking on Save, and the system will automatically guide me to the tab I was looking for, the document references, and in here I can see the freight PO that I typed when I was selecting the carrier and the freight PO. So in here you can see this is the SRM freight PO that we specified a little bit before. So in the document references for the freight order, you have that's the goods PO, and the second one is the freight PO. Okay, so in here you also have the freight PO that you can also edit it manually if needed. Okay. All right, so that basically covers this part, the part of the assigned carrier, this part of the process of the assigned carrier and assigned freight PO. This part of the route, dates, and charges. As a freight order manager, you can still do changes, and basically the most important part for you would be to change the charges. Okay, so one of your roles as a freight procurement division will be to go to the charges tab in the freight order, okay, and indicate the actual charges for that particular shipment. Okay, so these charges appearing here are only estimates and are based on the rates master data. Okay, so once you have the actual costs for that particular shipment, you have the option to edit the freight order and indicate the actual charges. Okay, so in here you have two different lines. The first line is the estimated charges, and the one you have to update is the actual charges, so that you never lose the initial estimate done, and you can always compare actual versus estimates in case you want to do reports to measure the accuracy of the initial estimates. So you can change the estimate. So in this case, system is calculating the estimation based on the on a rate per cubic meter. Let's say, for example, the cubic meter rate specified in the master data, it's 150 per cubic meter. Okay. No, yeah. So per cubic meter, and the total quantity of cubic meters, it's a little bit more than 20. So that's how the system is calculating the $3,063. Okay. So we can change and indicate here a different rate per cubic meter. Let's say, for example, we could indicate okay. All right. Let me change it. I don't know why it's not allowing me to change it. Ignore. All right. So I want to change the actual charges, but it's not allowing me at this point. Okay. So that should be the way to change. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what's going on in the system, but I cannot change the actual charges. But anyway, in production, you will be able to do it. So either you indicate a different rate per cubic meter, or you can click on the ignore calculation rule in here and indicate the total amount for that particular shipment. Okay. So I don't know what's the problem in the training environment, but the system is not allowing me to change the actual charges. Okay. Okay. So we have a question in the chat regarding the charges. So the question it's about if the system will allow the user to change the charges to any amount, or if there is any predefined margin. So in TM, there is no, as far as I'm aware of. Okay, there is no range, but I double confirm that, so that and I will confirm that to you by email. But as far as I know, there is no predefined kind of threshold that you can change the charges. Okay, so that's more for I think for SRM, where you have the different thresholds, you can change. Okay, but in TM, not. You don't have it. Okay. All right. So at this stage, we have the freight order already created with we set with the business partner. So we have Kuehne and Nagel as business partner, and let's have a look at the statuses. Okay, and basically what we have here in the statuses, and you have to pay attention to, is that the execution status, it's ready for transportation execution, and this status is automatically assigned once you assign the carrier. So once there is a carrier assigned, and it's not the dummy one, so once we have a carrier assigned to the freight order, it means that the freight order is ready for transportation execution, and that in that way this freight order will appear in CCP, in the carrier collaboration portal for the freight forwarder. But in this case, it's Kuehne and Nagel. So in the carrier collaboration portal, in this case, it's the freight forwarder will be able to connect and to see the freight order to submit events and attachments. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to connect into the carrier collaboration portal as Kuehne and Nagel and look for this particular freight order to be able to submit events and attachments. Okay. So let me open the carrier collaboration portal. Okay. So this is the front end for external vendors, meaning freight forwarders and UNOE manufacturers. And I will be using the user of Kuehne and Nagel. Okay. So let me open that one. Service desk. 1 second. While I try to get the user for Kuehne and Nagel. If I'm not mistaken, yes, open. Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to get the username. Yeah. So meanwhile, I think we have a question about in the chat about the role of the freight buyer in indicating the actual charges. So if we go back to our end-to-end process, the system will calculate, once we are doing the planning as a TM planner, the system will do a charge estimate based on the master data. But after the freight forwarder has been selected and we have the actual charges and the awarded freight forwarder, we need to populate that information back into TM. So one information we need to update is the carrier and the freight PO, and the other one would be to update the actual charges and not only give the estimates in TM, so that we can at any time run reports to compare actual charges with estimates. Okay, so that will be the idea behind connecting into TM and including the actual charges into TM. Okay. So let me I'm trying to indicate CP. Okay, so that will be the carrier collaboration portal. Let's see if that one is the one for Kuhn and Nagel. Okay, so that will be the carrier collaboration portal view for the freight forwarder, so they can see the different freight orders available for them to submit events, attachments, and so on. So they can, in this case, there are 56 open for Kuhn and Nagel. Let me do it a little bit bigger. Okay, and in here, okay, we can see that in this case, the one of the most important fields for freight forwarders will be the one appearing at the top right. That will be the freight PO. Okay, so in here, the freight forwarder will be able to see or to filter by freight PO. Okay, so if they know the freight PO, and they know it because once they have been awarded a transportation or a freight PO, they receive the details, the freight PO number. So by searching for that freight PO, they can know which is going to be the related freight order. Okay, so for example, this one. And they will be able to submit events by clicking on the freight order. In this case, the 326, and that's the one that relates to our example from Durban to Mombasa. Okay, and in here they will be able to see the different expected events, so the handover to indicate that the items were handed over from the manufacturer to the freight forwarder, and the different expected events: loading, begin, loading end, departure, proof of pickup, and so on. And a different set of events for the final destination. Okay, so they are able to submit events. So let's say, for example, if they have completed the handover document, they can indicate here the date. So let's say, for example, it happened today, so they can specify today as date and the time. Okay, and they can submit that event as completed, so that event will be reported, and so in this way the freight forwarder has somehow indicated that they have completed this action, and all the events done here, reported here by the freight forwarder, can be also seen in TM. So if you, as a UN staff with the freight order manager role, if you go back to that particular freight order in TM, so now that's the view again of UN, okay, back into TM. So we are having a look at the same document, the freight order ending with 326 in carrier collaboration portal. So that's the view of the external partner, that's the view of the freight forwarder, and that's the view of the same document but in TM, in the UN Umoja module. Okay, so if we go to the execution tab of the freight order, if we go to the execution tab, execution, we'll be able to see the different events. So this handover event is the one that has been reported by the freight forwarder. So if we refresh, we should be able to see that event as reported. So we can see that the event appear as reported. That's why we can see the green square, and we can see the actual date, actual time, and so on. And we can see that the event was submitted via CCP. Okay. As UN staff, if needed, you can also submit events directly in TM that are also visible by the external vendors in the Carrier Collaboration Portal. What we just explained about events also applies for attachments. So attachments can also be submitted in CCP and visible in TM, and notes. So in here, by using the notes, you have a kind of communication channel between external partners and UN. So in a way, freight forwarders can submit here notes that will be visible from TM. So in here, I could write a note. There seems to be a delay in the loading, okay, or any type of comment you wanted to, or the freight forwarder wanted to add, okay, a note, and that note here will appear, okay. Note has been submitted, but I cannot see it there. Update. Okay. Okay. So I don't know what was the problem, but now there was a problem with the refresh. So now I can see the note that we wrote before. So these notes, attachments, and events are also appearing in the UN view. So if we have a look at the different tabs available, so we already saw that in the execution we can see, in here we can see the events. So in here we can see the events. We have also the notes tab and the attachments tab. Okay. So in the notes is where we can see the note we have just submitted, and in the attachments, if there was any attachments added, we will be able to find those attachments that were reported through CCP, and you can also report attachments directly in TM. So that's the main purpose of having the different legs and the different freight orders created in TM, to allow communication between freight forwarders and UN, and also same thing will apply to manufacturers. So in this case, we are having a look at the view of Kuehne and Nagel, but in the case of vehicles, if we connect it as Nissan will be able also to report on the legs they are responsible for. Okay. All right. So that's what we refer in the end-to-end as the execute and monitor phase. So the execute and monitor phase are the submission of events and attachments, either in CCP by external partners or in TM by UN staff, meaning planners or freight order managers. Okay. All right. So that was the information or the process I wanted to cover. Same thing applies, as we said, for COE and troops. Basically, for troops, the main difference would be that the transportation is always airport to airport, and that when submitting events, okay, for troops, the you might be using these unexpected events. So let me try to open the unexpected events that are available. So in here you have also the unexpected events. In the tour events, you can see the different available unexpected events. And there are two that apply mainly to troops that are, sorry. this chock arrival and chock departure are basically two um, exceptional events that apply basically for the troop scenario to indicate that the different flights arrived uh, to the destination. Okay, so those two unexpected events relate more to the troop scenario, and we are building some, or we are recording some videos for external partners to be able to submit events, attachments, and to explain the carrier collaboration portal for freight forwarders and for manufacturers. Okay, so you have more information on those when we share those video recordings. Okay. Any question before we close the session? I think we almost took 10 minutes more than expected, so sorry about that. So before I close the session, any question you would like to, or comment you would like to raise? Okay. So thank you, Maxime, for writing the chat. Okay, so sorry about trying to put a lot of information in only 1 hour, but it was meant to be a refresher, so sorry about the ones seeing the system for the first time. Maybe it was a little bit tough for you, but we will be also sharing the recording in case you want to see any part once again, and feel free to reach us for questions or follow-up comments. Okay, so thank you very much and have a great day.